Good to go, Chris?
Good to go? Thank you.
All right. Good night, everyone. I'd like to welcome everyone to today's Planning Commission meeting for Thursday, April the 3rd. Could we have a roll call, please?
Crutcher. Gray.
Here.
Cometzo.
Here.
Majoris. Manti.
Here.
Perot.
Here.
Westendorf.
Here. Thank you very much. The regular agenda for tonight, we have any questions? We're a little on the light side tonight, considering why we're getting together, but do we have any questions? All right, seeing none, do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Support?
Motion made and supported, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Item number 3, the public hearing for the zoning ordinance text amendment. Mr. Weber, if you could enlighten us, please.
Sure. Administration has reviewed several areas of the zoning code and is recommending changes. Those changes include, first, regarding banquet facilities and event centers. Currently, the ordinance specifies that banquet facilities are permitted by right. Event centers are not mentioned. Administration recommends adding event centers and treating them identically to banquet centers. It's also recommended to change banquet facilities, and then therefore event centers, to a special land use, which would require planning commission approval. So that's the first item. The second item is related to outdoor tables and chairs for carry-out service. Currently, this item is not included in the ordinance. This would be added as permitted by right and would require site plan approval by the planning commission. Minimum standards are added for tables and chairs. The third item relates to weather-resistant enclosed accessory outdoor seating areas. Currently, this item is not included in the ordinance. This would be added as a special land use, subject to approval by the Planning Commission and the DDA Design Committee if it's located in the DDA. Design standards are added to the ordinance. And the last item relates to outdoor seating restricted by season. Currently, the outdoor seating is allowed April 15th through October 31st with the ability to extend that. This would be changed to allow outdoor seating to be used year-round. So we have today with us Jeff Bodell, our building official, and Beth Sorella, our city attorney, for questions, as well as myself. And just wanted to open up that discussion, give a chance for the public to weigh in on that, and then to discuss amongst yourselves. And if you're amenable to the changes, those would get forwarded on to city council, where they would have a first and second reading to amend the ordinance.
Okay. All right, well, thank you very much. Paper, rock, scissors for who wants to go first?
I'll start. Oh, they'll start? They're gonna start?
Yeah, I think they're just there.
Yeah.
I wish you could have seen the look on your
we need
face,
to-
though.
He did such a great job. I didn't think anything.
He's one of a kind. He's one of a kind. I mean, I can go ahead. I just have a couple of questions, and this could be just the OCD nitpickiness in me, but, so, special provisions, section 2, and I'd give you a page number, but the pages aren't numbered. It's item number 2, it starts with outdoor seating shall be permitted. So, down in the added section, it says, placement of tables and chairs outside carry-out restaurants. So the next sentence, it ends with customers seeking carry-out service subject to approved site plan. That's an approved site plan, right? Okay. And then the other, looking through the edits and updates in the wording, we're replacing dining with seating. In the term seating, I'm sure that was carefully chosen.
It was
I wanna
it was
make sure I
intentional because
understand.
dining sometimes implies we need to get, some approvals for liquor licensing and issues like that. So we're not really trying to include that. We're just making it a broader term. We're not trying to
Okay.
limit it to just dining.
Okay, and there's no risk with, and this, of course, this is taking it to the extreme. like adding bleachers or stadium-style seating, like.
Well, there's a site
someone that's
plan
gonna-
requirement, yeah, and there's standards they have to meet.
Okay, so we're not, there's no, the risk is controlled.
Right, so there'd be a site plan review.
Yeah, I just didn't want to make sure that we're,
Standards are, it has to be, they have to be able to fit it in their, curbside or adjacent to building front, so they have their same limitations that they have right now for what they do during, the April 15th to October period.
yeah, they can't encroach on the public side.
Right, you're still gonna, if there, if there's still, there's still gonna be issues with public right-of-way, and if they want to be in, anywhere in the public right-of-way, they'd still need to get a license from the city, so none of that changes. The primary reason this was done is because there's several locations where there's outdoor chairs and tables that have no site plan approval, and it's just unknown. They're allowed to put them out there, take them back in. They get left out there in the winter. It causes obstruction for like shoveling the sidewalk and stuff. So this is really an intent to get what they're allowed to do on paper and to get them to continuously comply with that. And if they don't comply, we have something that we can enforce against them. So that's really the intent of this, is to get it down on paper. What is everybody's plan? Is it safe, for the surrounding area? And is it maintained so that it's safe in the winter and that type of thing?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, with everything that we do is keeping it in mind that we're not just talking about the downtown, which is the first thing that your mind goes to. We're talking about the entire city. So all the restaurants at 10 and Orchard and, soon to be Peace Tacos and everybody else that's amongst the masses, we make sure that we keep them into consideration.
Right.
Yep. Okay, like I said, just the OCD in me. I want to make sure that we're choosing our words correctly. So.
It's not really intended to change what they're doing right now. It's intended that we have a record of it, approve it, and can enforce it so that it's safe for everybody.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just real quickly, well, first off, it's not OCD, it's OCB. It's a behavior, and you choose to act that way, which is a good thing.
I should have known you had one loaded in the chamber.
At my age, I've been through a lot of them.
You're a peach.
In enforcement, and that's why we're here, whether it's the very first item and how we enforce, that new term event center.
Yep.
Or you're asking about the seating. Everything relates back to the site plan. And we want to be able to take that site plan that came in front of this body. Now, there are occasions where administrative approval can come with a site plan, but the administrator of that has to decide when he wants to take all the good and bad that comes with that approval and decide whether or not a body like this should indeed be looking at it. Okay. So let me give you some other examples of things that are site plan related. We get requests all the time to put a clothing bin, St. Vincent de Paul, Volunteers of America, on some private property. And we always say, no, it's not on your approved site plan. And the only one you get in trouble with on those, by the way, is when they want to put the newspaper box. That's kind of a wrestling match because, a newspaper is something different. And those have long gone away, almost gone away with the social media. Yep. So all the time, we rely on the site plan. So the things that you do with the site plan are really, really important to future approval. So the most current one was we have the gas station at 9 in Farmington. All of a sudden, the plans came in and they had electric plugs across the front of the building. Well, I know what that means. That means ice machine,
Sure.
hot machine, everything that they can't fit in their building, they're going to sell on the sidewalk. I said, cover all them plugs up, you don't get to use them. Nothing was on your approved site plan.
Yep.
Okay? So just keep that in mind
Yeah.
when you approve site plans. And that goes for the sale of propane, all of those things hasn't been traditionally done because nobody was thinking about enforcement when they allowed it. Okay, so like I say, you have a real important role when you approve a site plan.
And you see, you really, to that point, and it's something that we probably, the average person doesn't really appreciate, but you look across the street and the gas station across the street that's in the hills is just full
Correct.
of products, yeah.
So right now, our station at Halsted or Freedom and Grand River has outside sales. I've notified them, your new building, that's over. Figure out how to get it in a store, you're not putting it on a sidewalk.
Yep.
Because, again, you know, we've all seen the speedway stations in places that lines the area between the pumps with fertilizer and wood chips and everything they can buy to sell.
Sure.
And, you know, that's not what you intended for that, to allow for that.
Right.
Okay, so there are some provisions in our ordinance for outside sales and things of that nature. That's a little different, but the site, and quite frankly, somebody came in new and wanted to have some of that, we'd be sending them to you.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay?
Thank you very much. Comments, questions for staff?
I do have a question. Two questions, actually. Can we define what's an event center? For example, like what would it be?
Yes, thank you. The reason this is on there is many, many, many communities, not all, you can't say all, use banquet center special land use. Why? Well, you take a great big building and all of a sudden you get a wedding with 350 people in it, or anything else. I have actually been in communities that the unknown center like this had an event and they had to call mutual aid. There was a riot in the street. Okay, so in our community, we have to be cognizant that our police force can't handle a giant crowd all of a sudden with no notice. And a banquet center, they can rent it to anybody for almost anything. An event center is a term that has popped up in our world today as a way to have a banquet center without a kitchen. And they hold events that might be a wedding shower. It could be a bar mitzvah. It could be a CD release party where we had one in an event center here that they advertised on social media, had hundreds and hundreds of people, and underage drinking, you know, all kinds of stuff going on. And, you know, they call the police department at night, and, you know, they have a lot more to do than that. So you get to choose which buildings, and do they have enough parking? Do they have enough, you know, all of those things would fall in. Because right now, since it doesn't say it in the ordinance, we're trying to group it in with something so there's more control of it than every vacant. This is how hard it is to have an event center. Oh, that building's vacant? It's got 2 bathrooms? I could have an event center there. And then they're calling you to try to move in. And like I say, they could be very detrimental to your public safety.
Okay.
I have talked to the chief about this, and he was very much in agreement that, you know, there should be some control. And it's not like we want to control them, but, you know, if we have a legitimate facility that wants to move in, then there should be provisions put in. And again, the site plan approval dictates an awful lot as to how we enforce.
Very good. Very good, thank you.
Does it also include the permit to hold the event in a building or something?
No, they don't get a permit to hold the event. They get site plan approval and a building permit to open such a facility. Once they open it, it's on them as to who they rent it to, and they can rent it to anybody.
But you can put conditions on it when you approve it. So when it's a special land use, you have the discretion there. You have a lot of discretion there because you're seeing it, you're seeing everything surrounding it. And you as the planning commission then have the ability to say, this is how big it is, so we need this condition. It's next to this, so we need this condition. So that's the reason we're making a special land use, because it really is a vague term, and they're using it to apply to a lot of different types of buildings. So when they're coming in asking for this, it comes to you, you look at what it is, and you decide, what conditions do we need here to make this viable, if it's viable at all? You may say it's not. This isn't the right place for this. And because it's discretionary, you can turn it down.
Quick follow-up to that.
Yeah.
So we could potentially put a stipulation on it, say our local police department determined that they could handle potential gathering of 100 people or something. We could say, if your occupancy is more than that, then you have to like notify the city and get an event permit.
Well, I mean, we have already
Something to that
an
effect.
event, our ordinance for, events and stuff wouldn't necessarily apply in that situation, so we don't have a permitting process for that. You could do something like if it's over, you could limit, probably occupancy to given what type of parking situation is there. You could say, because of the parking situation, you can't have more than an event with like 25 people or whatever. So you could do something like that. Or if you were going to, allow it and the event was going to be, you thought too much capacity for our public safety, require, I don't know, maybe require some kind of, them to have like a private security detail or something like, it's really gonna be
I was
case
thinking-
specific as to what location they pick.
I was thinking more of just like notice to the department,
Yeah,
hey, there's something happening here, so you don't get that surprise, or just at least give them the opportunity to respond to it.
If you approve an event center, they get to hold any kind of event they want. It's like any other business. It's limited in its size to how many bathrooms they have. The building code dictates can't have over 100 people and without a sprinkling system. A couple of them have not. I've held my only construction board of appeals in my life in this room over an event center that wanted to go into a place that would have allowed about 200 people, 180 or 230 or something, but they didn't have a sprinkling system. And they wanted a variance to that. Naturally, they didn't get it because that's not safe. But once you approve an event center, you don't have any control over what event they're going to have. But and that's why it's so important that these type of places can't just go into any vacant building that can hold 50, 70, 90 people, and you don't get a say in it. We don't have our American Legion anymore. Go talk to the people that live behind the American Legion. They would have an event there in the parking lot because their building was too small, and they would park cars all over every building on Grand River and fill that parking lot with people with a tent. You're going to probably say, you got to keep your event inside the building. And then it's limited by the occupant load of the building. So like I say, the reason this is in here is because people have taken that word all over Southeast Michigan and other places and turned a banquet facility. And what they do is they say, well, we don't have food. Well, they cater the food in. They don't have a liquor license. The guy brings his own alcohol. And like I say, that's why it's in front of you today. Because just all the things you're thinking actually do happen. And so, and we, our public safety is not, we're a bedroom community with small business, and we're not equipped to handle the CD release party that, like I say, I've seen them with 1,000 people. All of a sudden, there's 1,000 people, and there's cars parked everywhere. They're double parked on the street. They're standing everywhere. There's, you name it, it's happening. Yeah. And what would our public safety do? So that's why it's in front of you today.
Very good.
And you'd look at it with like any other special land use, you know, with all the standards and can they meet this, can they meet that, is it detrimental? I mean, so every single one of those that came in, you'd have that list of standards, you'd have to go through and do a factual finding on whether they can meet it or not. And if, you know, can they meet it conditionally with such and such condition or can they not?
So it's still a little bit blurry for me. So if it's a one-time event, somebody wants to have a one-time event, will they need to have a site plan to use a certain facility for this one-time event?
They would have to have it that whole building approved for that use as a special events center. So they couldn't just come in and do it one time.
I guess I'm confused as to your question.
Okay.
If the hardware store wants to have a President's Day sales event, that's a completely different section of the ordinance. This verbiage is put into the ordinance because people come and they want to have a business. They want it to be there 365 days a year.
Okay.
Every time they rent it, they're going to have some kind of an event that we don't know what it is because they rented it to any one of you. You know, and, you know, you wouldn't want my family, you know, a bunch of crazy Irish people coming from all over the place. You know, you wouldn't want them, but you'd have to take it.
Okay, so it's basically a center used for events. Maybe there should be some kind of definition of what event center is, because if
The
it's,
event center says C banquet facility.
So it's the same at our banquet, we don't have a definition of banquet facility either. So that's why we grouped it in with banquet facility. So it's the same thing as a banquet facility. That's why it's together.
I get it now.
Yeah, you're using it for the same reason you would use a banquet facility, but without having the kitchen. So that's why it's there.
Okay,
It's in that category.
all right. My other question was regarding the outdoor seating. So a place can put, a restaurant or whatever, can put chairs and tables outside either for dining or for pickup, for customer pickup, right? So will they have to designate which tables are used for dining, or will they have to designate that the tables are used for pickup? Because somebody can just go and sit there to eat, but it's really designated for something else.
Okay, so to answer this properly, you have to know that right now we have two standards. One standard is table service, where you're going to be served, and one is outdoor dining. So I'm going to tell you the two. So if you go over to Mazza, you walk in, you order your tacos, they give them to you, you take them outside, and you sit down at a table and you eat them. And that is outdoor dining. And right now, there is no requirement other than the dates of when you can have your tables outside. There's no site plan necessary to have that. But you just go just down the street to Blueberry Brunch, and you sit down and you order your breakfast. They have to have a site plan and be approved for that. What we're doing is we're saying all outdoor tables and chairs, regardless of what they're used for, has to have an approved site plan. So that we can dictate La Pecanora right here, 2 tables, little, two chairs at each table. They don't need anything, they just put them out there. Well, they're gonna need a site plan to have 2 tables, and if they want it, if all of a sudden 3 show up, and now the sidewalk's crowded, they're leaning into the building next door, we say, no, your site plan said 2. That's what you were allowed, 2.
They could come back if, you know, they could come back and amend their site plan if they want to change it, but we would have to know about it. We'd have to do an amendment like anybody else.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
Any other
Yeah,
comments?
so with the outdoor seating, does that also include, what was, during COVID, they were popping up with like the igloos?
That's the other section we're talking about here, the enclosed structures. where
Yeah.
They need to come in for a special land use for
Okay.
that, because there's a lot that goes with that, you know, from a safety perspective.
Right. Okay.
Any other comments or questions, staff?
No.
All right. Seeing none, do we have a motion?
I don't know that we technically opened it.
Yeah, considering that we're fresh out of public to hear, yeah. I mean, we never opened it, so technically we never close it. We just go to the next
Open
item.
it now and close it.
Do we have a motion?
Motion to open the public hearing?
Support?
Motion made and supported, all in favor? Aye. All right, we are now open.
Motion to close public hearing?
I was gonna ask if there was somebody coming down the hallway.
Oh, the motion's made and supported.
Motion made and supported, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Oh, you guys are too much sometimes.
Mr. Chairman? Yes. And we'd be looking for a motion related to this item to recommend approval of it and forward to city council,
All right, we have,
which is listed on the staff report.
okay,
Motion's listed on the staff report that we'd be looking for.
okay.
Ready?
Yeah, if you have a motion, please feel free.
Motion to recommend approval of the proposed amendments to the Chapter 35, Article 7, Sections 35, 102, and 35, 158, and to forward them to the City Council for their review and consideration.
Support?
Motion made and supported, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. All right. And seeing that we have no public that is available to comment, any comments from commissioners?
None.
All right, seeing none. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Support.
Motion made and supported, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Good night, everybody.